Guys, I'm sarcastic with the Hyperloops here. Pretty much just got back from Nova a couple days ago. Kind of decompressed from the entire weekend and whatnot. But pretty much wanted to just go over some stuff. So I didn't do a day 2 recap. The group wasn't all housed together, so it was kind of just like we were all doing our own things. And after day 2, I had done the Chance Cube panel, and it was kind of late. But anyways, so plus I had to get ready for Top Cut the next day. So got a bunch of games in. Or actually, no, we didn't get games that day. That was the day before. Sorry, whoops. Anyways, so I'll get him at the lane shift in a second. I don't know, my brain's not working right now. So, I guess congrats go out to our buds, Air Gaming, Drew Warren. Great job. Manton / Cody, also great job. Nothing but love for you guys. I'm glad you guys were able to take it down after putting in so much effort testing with the deck list and whatnot. Kudos. Things that were of, I guess, interest for the event as a whole. Anyone who remembers Nova from last year, there was a snafu where they changed the number of rounds they changed the thing from 7 rounds top 16 to 8 rounds top 8. And like, that left, a pretty bad feeling in people's mouths, because the format change really doesn't, like, you might think number-wise that it adjusts it and ends up being like the same, because the same number of like X and 2s get in it. But it does change the things exponentially, especially with like tiebreakers being so necessary. So this year's format, what they did is they had a Heat 1 and a Heat 2 for day 1. So kind of like Worlds, where day A, day B. So now what they did was they had locked in 8 rounds, top 16 from each day will make the top 32. So now we had a very low attendance, whether it be people not playing the game as much anymore, or people just not liking the format. Allegedly, what ended up happening was after Mill won NA Champs at Gen Con, a bunch of people kind of like returned their tickets, allegedly. How accurate that is, I don't know. Could just be, rumors. But we ended up having, I think, 52 people, or 50 people day 1. Yeah, I think it was 50 people day 1. So, I think it was every X and 3, but 4 of them, or 3 of them, had got into top 16. So, like, around round 6 is where you could kind of like flesh things out, kind of knew what was going on. Round 7 and 8, people were just kind of playing each other, or like the top tables were just playing each other over and over again, and just handing each other losses. So I don't know who kind of got like the bad break in maybe they were like X and 2 after like round 7 or whatever, then got maybe lost and were out via tiebreakers. But the tiebreakers, you pretty much would have had to have lost, I think, relatively early a couple times in order to really get screwed, as one of the few X and 3s that didn't make it. On day 2, things were a little different. We had 72 players, so when that went down, only I think 4 X and 3s made it. But it's always an interesting thing when X and 3s make it. Like, usually if something kind of goes, pretty much that never goes down, but if it ever does, it's like 1. And it's usually like rare circumstance, but yeah, so that was interesting enough. The meta there was, so day 1 had a lot of mill players, and a lot of them actually just weren't doing too well. The deck, while in theory is easy to play, the understanding of it is not. You really do have to amass resources to be able to cast your removal while taking your opponent down. Especially once you have stuff like Force Meditation and or like Anti-Spot. What a lot of people just aren't aware of is like, alright, well, let's say you use your Yoda for 1 mil instead of a resource. What they're not aware of is that, primarily speaking, you can use that one resource for a larger amount of things and get more from it than you would get than just the 1 mil. And that's kind of where stuff like Clandestine Operation comes in. Because let's say you have 3 specials and you Clandestine for 1 and you just take resources. You'll have gotten, 2 or 3 resources, depending on like bartering, or if you like just set up a resource and whatnot, while still milling them 3 for 1 resource. Whereas if you chain your Yoda specials and you're just getting a single mill, or 2 mil, and kind of just not furthering what's going on, like you're doing like, you're essentially doing 1 damage with this dice. So like 1 damage, and a focus. Whereas with the resource, like the resource tends to be worth more than 1 damage, because you can, let's say you pay the 2, and so you got your resources, and then you jam down like a Force Meditation, then that's going to get the 2, mil damage on its own. And it's something you have to like really be aware of, that you need to find these upgrades and supports that do the milling, because you don't want to actually actively use Yoda's die for that. You want to get resources. If your opponent disrupts you, you want to be able to still be able to entangle or hyperspace jump in subsequent rounds, and it's often something people just don't do. I didn't play too many mill matchups, but that's what frequently kind of occurred, and it's just like, well, okay, because like let's say over the course of 3 rounds you've milled me 6 cards with Yoda. I probably wouldn't be able to kill your guy if like even half of those were like resources, because the 1 and 2 cost removal that you have is pretty blowout. Even Beguile will go and mess up a bunch of stuff, so then you could like force a reroll. So when they reroll, you're essentially still getting the same, 1 damage in. So I can need a tissue. The weather's kicking my ass. Alright, so yeah, whether, like, realistically, I think the current meta doesn't allow Mill to stand up the way it used to, because Snoke is a big pain in the butt for them, and like any of the decks can really fight it now. People understand what's going on. So a lot of them had cut some removal to have like more gas, so that they could like actively kill the deck faster. But then that opens up spots for other decks to make the comebacks, particularly very like aggressive decks. So we had several Kylo, we had 3 Kylo Snoke decks in Top Cut, and those were all from Artificery. There was a Kylo Price, Dave C, from Arrowbrook. He made top 4. He ended up losing to Cody. My God, it is hot in here for some godly reason. Let's turn the AC on. So just like there's a lot of things going on. So Mill is not currently top dog. As most of you have seen by now, it's realistically Snoke decks. And now, like, there's many questions that go on here, because, like, Snoke's ability is very strong, but, like, by itself, it doesn't win you the game. It just sets you up in great positions to go win the game. When you're Snoking damage, you're getting +1 damage while you're, hitting each other, because I'm taking 1 and you're taking +2. When you Snoke resources is when things can get out of hand, because resources go pretty much a long distance. And if like, I don't know, you can repeat this over and over, like damage wise, you're getting +1, +1, +1. So after getting like the droid reduction, means it's like you got an additional free resource out of it. Like the droids really aren't cost efficient when you pay 2 for them, but for 1 they're pretty amazing. So like you'd probably say that like Afra's ability is worth like half to 3/4 of a resource per round, just because the cards she's getting a discount on aren't really worth the value paid for them, like in full. So, but the value that you are paying for them is just immeasurable. So, what is it? So yeah, Snoke Battle Droid Afra 1, for those that didn't know. Top 4 also included Kylo Price and Dooku 1000. So, I firmly believe that the two character decks are kind of just like outclassed right now, but the top end of the ability to output damage for the two character decks is still really strong, because they can actively go and burst a character down, and so like let's say you go and actively burst down Snoke or Afra like round 2, like the engine might not be set up, and then now there's a potential damage struggle going on. So you include some very fine removal in there, and you're just kind of like messing things up all over the place for them. So Dooku 1000 was piloted by my teammate NJ Cuenca. We ended up playing each other in top 8. I played Snoke Bazine, First Order Stormtrooper. The deck that won UK Nats was my prior version. Always kudos to Greg Pike or Stealth Boost for taking it down with that. Even with, because like there were a couple cards I was testing that were in the list, and he took it, ran with it, and it was good to go. So like I had made adjustments based on seeing the format from Thursday. You'll see the deck list in my article, but I had chose to run a Deflect, a Failure Anger, and a Mind Trick. I had cut the Beguiles. I felt they weren't good in the card format, so like they were definitely usable. They're just not what I wanted. I kind of wanted like blowout type cards that were a smidgen more situational. If anyone saw the streamed match where I played against Ray Luke, I think it's Jake Headcast Loth Wolf something. It's the thing that gives like a shield to each of your guys, and then you can activate them for 1 resource. He got all his dice in the pool, and then I mind tricked. And like eating a bunch of dice is pretty phenomenal, especially in a format where we're all kind of just rolling all of our dice out. The pretty much running mind trick goes and makes opponents have to resolve much more slowly. So the theory there was that in general I could get blowouts, and anyone that was aware, they would have to kind of try to play around it, which would give me a bunch more time as far as my own sequencing to potentially like control the battlefield and whatnot. So that was very helpful. The Deflect, I really just didn't like it. I think it's just different for the way I play my deck versus like the rest of the format. The rest of the format could easily have like a resource available, but I just have to eat and make so many resources that the timing for the Deflect is always not that great. 1 second. So because like it's hard to match up the timing to cast Deflect, it ends up being much worse for the wear for me. So like Feel Your Anger and stuff, I can, because of like the blowout potential, I'm fine with kind of just being short that 1 resource and making it up somewhere. And then like Mind Trick, I'm only going to cast it when it's relatively strong or necessary. So it's kind of just one of those things where like you have to decide which way to go with it. But it's interesting to say the least. Mind Trick I think was very good there. So like German Nationals I think was won by Sienna, Afra, Snoke. So I have to apologize to Lawler for telling him he was out of his mind with this 3 character deck, even though like Afra and Snoke have like their own pure benefits there. It was still like a crazy 3 character deck, because if things just weren't going well, you were just short dice. I still think Bazine's really, really strong. Afra is just kind of like really good at doing her thing, and the battle droids are as well. I mean, not the battle droids, sorry, geez, the droids are as well. So, let me think. Let's talk about Aphra a little bit. So Aphra's really interesting in that she's pretty much a pseudo built-in resource and draw engine. They make you run some inefficient cards at times, but things like dangerous maneuver and crash landing really aren't bad per se. And then when you include bubble shield, it changes things immensely, just because bubble shield becomes like it's like a 3 health, healing bot when combined with other cards. If your opponent is indirect, which a lot of these other decks are doing, it puts you in a good spot there. And then also, when you decide to crash landing or do dangerous maneuver, then you can just throw it over the bubble shield, and you're getting replacement in the draw engine with Aphra, so that you can either draw more removal or find your droids. So pretty much becomes all gravy for them. There's probably still a bunch of tweaking that can be done to those types of decks and the format as a whole to find answers to things. Like, if Snoke Aphra is going to end up being really strong because all the droids, then like, does Yoda, Ezra, Anakin make a comeback? I mean, Yoda, Ezra, rookie? Because what ends up happening there is that they really only use like one resource at a round or at a time. So Ezra can steal a resource to help fund your own vehicles, and then you can do like the burst damage like normal, and you have cautions to soak up a lot of that indirect damage. So it could be an interesting battle there, especially with like Y-Wings being able to continuously do 4s. 4s are just much better than 2 and 3. And then it doesn't count as actual indirect damage, even though it's assigned like it. So it could, bypass like the bubble shields and whatnot. But who knows? I'm gonna retake a look at Yoda as a rookie and see if we can find an answer to the Snoke format. So Dooku Townsend operated very well. Dooku Townsend's benefit there is that none of the 2-character decks, pretty much none of the 2-character decks that were just like their 4 dice really got anywhere. They each had something going for them. So like Kylo Snoke, you have the Snoke ability, which is essentially like an inherent 5th die. The boosting to a Kylo die is really strong. You have Kylo Price. Price gets the boosting as well as like the fast resolution, so you can spike guys off the table. Dooku Townsend has like the double sets of focusing. Townsend and Dooku's ability. And Dooku's a big boy, man. Like, I give him shit all the time, but like 2-3 for a resource, 2 shields is real strong. Like, just kind of think when we were all looking at like K2SO, and we're like, oh, well, he costs too much, but like his die's amazing. Except Dooku also gets to fix it, and if he's playing any like the mirrors or melee matches, he just kind of ruins shit. So he's like, oh, hey Kylo, like, yeah, you hit me for 2. Let me, no, that's not going to be melee anymore. Put that to blink. And then, like, if you don't reroll, you run into, like, a Feel Your Anger, which he has as a 2 of. And he had 2 deflects, so, like, he was just straight ruining my life. Not to mention Rift Valley. Rift Valley's really strong. He had 4 evens in his deck. So his Rift Valley would pretty constantly be capable of usage. And he had, 4 speeds to maintain speed. So even though he has 2 different, symbols for damage, he's getting things through, and then like all-ins and yieldings. So like, I think if he could go back, there were some adjustments he could probably make to better suit himself for the meta. Because there were probably some cards he wasn't too happy with at the end of the day. But overall, the deck seemed to do its job. What else is there? Rey Luke. Luke has the whole ability to reuse like an ability, blue ability, by shifting it to another blue character, and then Rey has the whole thing for, she got shield and she's poking people as she activates. So like those are all decks that, like, even though they have just 4 characters, they have other stuff going for them. Like Kylo's ability to you know, hit for some damage at times is very relevant. So like they're all like hidden, you know, 5th die. Like even the 3 character deck has like a hidden 4th and 5th die. Most of the other decks are like, all right, 4 dice with a hidden 5th, blah blah blah, and then like Snoke 5 dies like a hidden 6th die, you know. But so like that's kind of what we're looking at as a whole in the format. It's pretty much, for me, it's always been like, all right, you know, get a bunch of cheap damage dice out, and just stack up damage on the opponent, and they'll fall apart, you know. But now, so like, I guess let's talk format for a bit. So it's really kind of like a Snoke world right now. People are playing, you know, slow decks with Snoke, fast decks with Snoke. Snoke just, you know, the holocron package and Kylo Snoke. You know, just fixing stuff and like bashing people is very strong. You can ramp out to then be able to cast like Rise again. We've got chance cubes because Snoke can fix them and just put them out. So if you're eating character dice to make sure they can't Snoke, then like you're not stopping these chance cubes. So like the thing here is primarily that, like, I don't even know what I'm saying right now. Snoke enables a bunch of different decks to be playable. So like there is an inherent issue with Snoke being very good, but you know, when have you ever seen Bazine to be playable? When have you ever seen Natural Pilot be playable? When's the last time you've seen a dedicated holocron deck, Rise Agains, Drawn Snoke running, you know, Grand Moff, like, so like Snoke is pretty much making decks capable of running these big awful cards that have really good effects because he has an entire, you know, engine situated around him. So sure, there was, you know, let's say 10 decks, 11 decks with Snoke in it, or whatever it was in top 32. So he takes up big chunks. Yoda takes up big chunks with the mill deck. You've got Towson taking up big chunks with, you know, the Commandos and Dooku Towson, and you know you have whatever Afro decks, because there was the Afro Executioners from Destiny Council. So it's just like one of those things where, like, all right, we have a few characters that are just really, really strong, and you kind of, they're in like that like what, 12 to 14 range that people are building decks around, and it's just like, all right, you know, Ayla used to have decks built around her because she was 12, and then you just like kind of figure out what teammates to go. So there was like the original like Rainbow 5 vehicle deck. You've got the Yoda ones, you know. So it's just kind of like these cheaper characters that are good, get decks built around them because they allow you to do these different types of things. So like, could he be considered a problem because he's too good? Yes. But could he also be considered helpful to the game as far as using all these like cards that are not so great? Like, I played friggin' Houndstooths and Natural Pilots, Bazine. Dooku Sailor might fall off if he didn't exist. But like the fact that he has like the double focuses and has this ability, he sets you up for consistency. And when you go to a big event, you really just want to be able to consistently do the same things like over and over and over again. I don't know. It's we'll kind of wait and see what ends up happening. I think realistically, there's just kind of hope that people go and deck build outside of the shell, so that we can kind of see what ends up happening, as far as like, can non-Snoke decks hang with Snoke? And like they can, but like they have to be tweaked well. Players have to be pretty much good players playing them, and a lot of good players are probably actually just playing Snoke instead of let me play this other deck, because like Snoke will allow you to just do dirty things that'll kind of just like win you the game, especially against like weaker players. They can't like account for certain stuff, and you're just like, all right, well, I'll grab 3 resources here. And they're like, oh, cool, I'll put 6 damage into your Kylo. And then you go to the next round, and all of a sudden it's the Rise again, and I'm going to pull back a Force Wave. And you're like, oh, shit. That's the other thing. Like, Force Wave is one of the big answers to the current format. Relby is very good in the current format. Anything that could just pump out tons of damage to multiple guys. The thermals, very good here. But like, can you bring Pro 1 to the table? Maybe. Like, realistically, if I'm going to an event and I want to beat Snoke, I think you would have to kind of be on a melee deck. The reason being is just because the amount of deflex being played right now. People get tired of taking 3s from Fangs, or people like trying to live the dream when ATST shows a 5 and they stop the 5 and throw back 3. So it's made deflect come back, because we're looking at a bunch of range sides. So like melee is probably the safer one, because you can kind of dead card certain pieces of your opponent's removal with it. You don't have to worry about being indirect. You can just go burst down Snoke and just go, just go gung-ho for him, just try to take him down. So like the melee decks might have the best options, just because your opponent having a 1 or 2 pieces of dead removal in their hands that they drew can set you up in a good position to sneak damage in that they otherwise, from other decks probably wouldn't have gotten in. So like Dooku 1000 seems pretty real. Rift Valley is ridiculous. I don't know. Like I personally don't. I'm not a huge fan of like the Kylo Snoke like holocron deck. Sometimes you're just kind of hoping for certain stuff to go well. But I also just like 3-wide decks, so if something goes bad, like, I'm not dead. But those decks do operate relatively well. I think the one I'd be interested in kind of messing around with is probably like Snoke, maybe double Executioner. You set up the melee stuff, and as you burst guys off the table, you get the additional dice. So since you're already playing, four dice with the potential 5th, via like the Snoke ability, and those are melee, you can get those rounds where you're just like, all right, drop an Ancient, okay, the Executioner hits for 5 with the Ancient, and then the other Executioner hits for 4, and like the little guy died, and then both Executioners come back out, maybe get like a resource and like 1 more damage or something. But like that can be pretty disgusting. They set up well for the round 2 kill of a character. So as long as you have like the proper, I guess, build. Because like I guess it showed up on stream and people were just loving the theory behind it. That they could be like the new version of Bala, But they have reliability and the tutor for lightsaber pull to go grab like Ancient. They could potentially run like Crossguard if they wanted. Crossguard's very good at just doing 2 damage on his own. Shoto probably less so, just because the way it's set up. But you could also just run Vibro, and Vibro let you bypass illusions. So that could be like 6 of your 2-drops right there that are just real strong. Then you can get the redeploys from like Z6 or Dagger of Mortis. Heirloom, probably not so much, just because you may not put that on Snoke. But I think that guy had like Aftermaths and Best Defense and stuff. So like there's a lot of room to do things with that deck. So like, but once again, it's another Snoke deck. But Destiny Council had like the Afro Executioners. So no Snoke. Most of them did well enough. A couple of them kind of unfortunate in Swiss. But Luke had, pretty much straight crushed through Swiss, but he fell down in Top Cut. So I don't know, like the format's really, I kind of like the format, and that there's a bunch of different options, even though a bunch of them revolve around Snoke. There are a bunch of different things you can do. So like that's real nice. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully people kind of just I don't know, enjoy themselves for, you know, whatever amount of time. Like, are we gonna get a nerf on like Snoke and Yoda? What happens if that happens? Because like realistically, like, and like I dislike being like, oh, this person needs a nerf. I'm not a big fan of that. Because like I kind of just play with what I'm given, and if they nerf stuff, then I nerf stuff, and I go find the next best thing. But if they're gonna nerf, let's say Snoke and Yoda, they're also gonna have to nerf Afro and what, potentially Towson, because like think of any of these decks that kept up with these, you know, quote unquote broken Snoke decks. So like if Snoke's just so broken that no one can fight it, why were these other decks, you know, floating around and capable of winning and winning games? So like then do we need to hit Towson, Afra, Snoke, and Yoda? Because that was almost in like every deck. But then like, will we then just have a bunch of Luke Ray decks running around? Would we then just have a bunch of Obi Maz? And like Obi Maz did relatively well. I think it was Daniel. I'm not even gonna try to say last names of people. Had played Obi Maz, and he was, outside of a shaky round one, I think he was doing very well, kind of just, you know, crushing people. The whole like Ancient and Vibro with Maz into a 4-speed and then like concentrate fix kill or shit like that, or just 4-speed fix kill, is real strong. And he was just able to, you know, straight burst guys down. So we'll kind of see what ends up happening, or like what shakes out. But like Obi Maz is a good place. Luke Ray's in a weirder place, but like they tank really well. Whether Kylo Snoke continues to like tweak and get adjustments is unknown. But like pretty much the decks that we're seeing in multiples, outside of being something that was just vastly known, it was all like team-based stuff. So like 2 of the Snoke Bazine First Order Stormtroopers in the top 16 were me and my buddy Yodaz. There were, I think, 2 mill decks in top 16. It was Reflex, and then a gentleman that we do not know, Noah Wild, but Reflex won Gen Con, so like the deck list is out. The 3 Kylo Snokes were Artificery. The 2 Afro Executioners were pretty much Destiny Council. I don't know if Rami is part of Destiny Council, but I know he's with that group. So there's that. NJ Cuenca is like the crazy man that's like running solo with the Dooku 1000. And Airwork Gaming was on the Snoke After Battle Droid. And like there were other people with, you know, similar lists or lineups that operated differently. So like Lake, or Charles Quitmeyer, was on Snoke Bazine First Order Stormtrooper, but he actually ran like the Dell Friends in High Places Big Expensive Things package. And I think there were 2 Thrawn Snokes also, but I don't know how close they were together. But that's Flaccid. Flaccid's from Artificery. But it's just like one of those things where like a lot of these decks are actually just, you know, functionally different, even though like the lineups are similar and there's Snoke. And that's what I'm saying. Like we haven't had a format that lets you kind of just use bad cards, and that's what we have right now. So like, is Snoke good for the game when we can use all sorts of things that we were never able to use before? Like, these vehicle decks are running Delves and Friends in High Places and ATST, Pirate Speeder Tank, and Planetary Bombardment. Like, how many decks use these cards? When's the last time you've seen an ATST see play? Like, realistically, they only see play in like Delve, Friends in High Place decks. Pirate Speeder Tank, pretty much that, and occasionally with stuff like Riggs Moeller or Kylo Riggs, he runs like the Yoda, Maz, Hera, and I think he has like the Pirate Speeder Tanks in the deck and stuff. You don't often see like these really expensive bad legendaries. Like, I heard someone killed somebody with the T7 Ion Disruptor. I don't know if that was any of those decks from Top Cut, but like, someone playing that shit is kind of crazy. Also, with the inclusion of all these big expensive decks, we can bring back guys like Kylo 1. Kylo 1 doing specials for like 3s and 5s and stuff is kind of nuts. And like maybe it's the answer to things. So like I don't know. There's all sorts of adjustments that are gonna start being made for like the deck list and whatnot, and we can kind of just see what ends up shaking out. If players have been brewing some, you know, whatever decks and getting tweaks over time, we'll probably see those decks pop up over these nationals as they're popping up now. But like, if for the players that just, you know, haven't been able to play much, or let's say their deck building's not great, like they'll probably just grab a deck list, someone that top 4, top 2, 1, you know, top 8, something that they like. And it's just like, all right, you know, we'll see what ends up happening. So like, essentially, we're gonna probably see a lot of the same type of decks, but we'll probably see some new ones sneak in, like Sebulba. Sebulba was like, whoa. Cat Snoke made a resurgence because people just were light on removal, and who knows? Maybe Cat Snoke punches all these decks in the face because they just murder the opposing Snoke, you know, round 2. But we'll find out the hard way. I really can't think of much else, but look forward to the tournament reports as they come out. I'm going to try to write mine today and kind of just see where it goes. But shout out to everyone. Nova, loved seeing you guys. Everyone that came and, you know, said hi, showed appreciation for what we do. But my nose is runny, and I want to blow it, and I don't want to do that on recording. So you guys have a great one, and Hyperloop out.